am so thrilled to have Felicia Sheline on the podcast. I'm getting tongue-tied. It is wonderful to talk to you and to have you on the podcast because you're doing such important work for families with special needs children. So, can you give us a little intro of what you do and your podcast too?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And first, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm so excited to be here. But my name is Felicia Sheline, and I am a special needs coach. I'm also the founder and the host of Surpassing Labels Podcast. I started my journey a long time ago with my middle daughter. She is 14 now and a freshman in high school, which is crazy to me. I also have a 17-year-old son and a 9-year-old little daughter. But when my daughter was almost 2, she was still not able to really sit up on her own, and she was not able to walk or talk or do any of the milestones that typical kids at her age would be able to do. So I started getting really concerned. I had brought these concerns up to pediatricians quite often before that point, and we were always told that every baby develops differently. Some people take longer to do this, and that was fine. But at that point in time, they did start becoming concerned, and they did an MRI, and they found out that she had a stroke in utero, and she was diagnosed with spastic hemiplegic cerebral palsy. So at that point in time, we began our journey as special needs parents, going to countless therapies. For the first few years of her life, she had therapies at least 2 times a day, 5 days a week. So it was a lot. We had a lot of doctor's appointments, specialist appointments, medicines, all that kind of stuff. So we continued our journey for a long time. I was a stay-at-home mom because I previously was a microbiologist working in different hospital settings. And when she was diagnosed, I did decide to stay at home with her just so I could make sure that she could get to all of the therapies and doctor's appointments so I could make sure that she was receiving whatever care that I could get for her. And I know, unfortunately, a lot of people don't always have that luxury, but we did. So I was a stay-at-home mom for about 12 years. And in that time, I actually ended up having my son and other daughter diagnosed with autoimmune issues. And my son was also recently diagnosed with ADHD. So we've had a lot of different components thrown in there. So it's been an interesting place. But after being a stay-at-home mom for so long and dealing with all of the navigating of daily life as a special needs parent, I found myself in a very kind of not so great place. I felt very alone. I felt very lost. I really did not know who I was anymore. So I knew that I needed to do something, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I actually just by chance came across this coaching program, and I'm like, you know what? That would be like something really awesome to be able to do to help other parents who might be in the same position that I am, who are feeling lost and alone and have no idea what they can be doing, because a lot of times it's hard to find work from home things. It's very challenging to find a job that you can do out in the workforce because you have so many other things that you're trying to balance. So I decided to start my coaching journey. And through that, I have just discovered so many different things that not only have helped me grow from where I was at and just transformed me completely from the inside out to where I can help other people,
Mhm.
but it just has opened up so much more awareness and so many different things that I want to do to be able to help others. And so that's why I founded the Surpassing Label podcast, is to try to help other special needs parents realize that they're not alone, a place for us to share our stories and just be heard. So that's a journey in a nutshell.
There's a lot there, and what you're doing is so important because being a special needs parent, just being a parent is isolating and can lead to burnout. But
Mhm.
having to give so much of yourself to take care of your children and your family, and on so many different levels, not everybody's the same age or has the same needs. And it's just, I just think special needs parents are heroes. It's, you don't sign up for it. It's like something that's handed to you, and you accept the challenge to excel at it, or and to be a voice for those who need an advocate, or you can really suffer. So I think you're just doing such important work, and I just want to give you a virtual pat on the back,
You're
honestly.
so sweet.
I have neurodiverse members in my family, and I know how you just don't. And I think for most special needs kids, one special needs kids is one special needs child. And there's, you have to almost find the luck of the draw with the right care providers, and have the right insurance and the right empathetic people to help you. And lots of times you just don't find that person. So you have to find the inner strength to advocate for your family on your own. And that takes so much courage and strength. But I would love to hear, among the spectrum of people that you've helped, what are some of the common challenges that that families are facing, but maybe some that are like even a little hidden, that they might not even realize where they can get support.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing because there are a lot of different challenges and everybody deals with them differently.
Right.
So what might be bothering somebody to somebody else, it's not a big deal. But some of the really common ones are absolutely stress and burnout. Another really big one that a lot of people do not seem to talk about enough, in my opinion, are emotions, like
Mm,
the emotional trauma
yeah.
of caring for special needs kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course trying to balance everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that those are the ones that we typically try to approach first and try to help people break through because once they can get out of that where they're stuck at,
Mm-hmm.
we can really see a lot of gains and help them navigate and take steps to where they want to be.
Yeah.
So,
So I
mm,
would love to hear, because I think when you're in it, you can't imagine not being in it a different way. So, what are some of the ways in which you've empowered your clients or seen people empowered to move forward and create a better life?
yeah, and that's absolutely right because when you're like stuck in the
Yeah.
midst of it, you can't imagine things possibly being different because you're already doing everything in your mind that you think you can do and trying your hardest.
Mhm.
But once we can really identify your key struggles, like what your biggest challenges are, we can really take an honest look of where you are. And I think that is my biggest thing that I like to look at first with people is having them honestly figure out where they are.
Mm.
Because especially as moms, like just moms in general, we
Mhm.
we like to say that we're fine, that everything
Mhm.
is fine. And most of the time things are not so fine.
Mhm.
So we really have to learn how to be honest with ourselves, not only with where we're at, but how we're feeling. If we need help, it's okay. So just starting there and recognizing where you really are is like a big thing.
Mhm.
Another thing that I like to work with my clients on is forgiveness and basically being able to forgive yourself. Because if you are in the special needs community or even neurodivergent or any type of medical challenges and you are a parent, a lot of times you carry a lot of guilt and shame because you're like, what if I did something that may have caused this? Or I should have known that this was going on. Or there's so many things that we tell ourselves that we carry around. So being able to forgive yourself and let them go is huge.
Mhm. Yeah, there can be resentment. There can be, in my situation, I acted one way before we really knew what was going on. So I had a lot of guilt about, I had no idea. Had I known, I would have acted totally different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and carrying that with you, and you couldn't have known. If you
Right.
don't know, you don't know. But
Right.
it doesn't mean that you don't feel guilty for it either.
Sure. No,
So,
that is huge. And that's an amazing point.
yeah, so I like to work a lot on that, and especially being able to acknowledge and actually work through your emotions because we have so many of them, and a lot of them are not the positive ones, and that's okay. But being able to work through them, process them, and being able to let them go and know that they're going to come back, which is okay.
Mhm.
But once you know how to process them, they'll be easier to handle. And then definitely getting okay with uncertainty and not knowing every single thing that's going to happen because your mind can go a million different ways when you don't know exactly what's going to happen. And it's really huge to be okay with the not knowing. So, those
Mhm.
are some of the main things that I really think with working with my clients have empowered them to be able to navigate through the stress and the burnout and that type of thing. So,
That's just fantastic. And honestly, those are skills that every human needs, quite honestly.
absolutely, I know.
And,
It's the simple things, right?
yeah. No, math and science and
Yeah.
that is great, but I really think that there should be a life skills course at some point in our schooling that really helps us with these things like emotional regulation. And that is just so important and so much a part of just even being a parent. And
Exactly. Yeah.
it's
No, exactly. I agree 1,000%. And I think that if we were able to help more people realize that it would create so much more in the world. So,
yeah, because we beat ourselves up that we see other people who don't have children that are special needs, and we make all these assumptions about their life and how it might be easier or whatnot. But that's not our situation, and it's really tough.
mhm. Yeah,
It
yeah,
is. I would love to hear about your thoughts on how the narrative needs to change around parents and families that are going through having special needs children and having to advocate for them and help them with their medical challenges and all of those things.
yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for asking that question because I don't think there's enough awareness out there. And I think that there's a huge misconception around the narrative. So,
Yeah.
I really think that every child, adult, or family that has been touched by special needs, they're just people like you or me. They may have medical challenges or issues that they're going through, but everybody has challenges of some sort.
Hmm.
So, everyone in the special needs world, I really think has just as much potential as anybody else. Other people can only see their conditions, diagnoses, or labels, and they can't see past that to the amazing people that they are underneath. And this is where things have to change. And this is one of the main reasons that I started Surpassing Labels podcast because I really want to change this narrative.
Hmm.
Because our kids, other special needs adults, and families, we are not defined by a diagnosis. We are not defined by circumstances, and we are not defined by labels that are put upon them by other people.
Hmm.
They get to create the definition of who they are, just like anybody else, even though it could look completely different from what other people are doing. But that's okay. We shouldn't just write them off or look past them because they have a condition, because they are absolutely amazing. We just need to be able to recognize that they have potential like anybody else. They just need the tools, the support, the space, and time to figure it out, just like anybody else in this world.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of times we don't even think that potential of what they could bring out into the world is there because all we see is whatever their condition is. And I really think that's what needs to change.
To add on to that, especially when it comes to neurodivergence, there are so many special needs that there isn't something visibly that you can
Yeah,
see. And
absolutely.
so just keeping in mind that maybe not everybody likes the loud music at the restaurant. Maybe not everybody
Yeah,
wants to go in a group setting somewhere, or there are all these little things that make us special, and we need that. We need that to teach us. There has been nothing, I think, in my life that has made me a better person than beginning to understand the differences in people. And so it's really an opportunity for that to go,
yeah,
oh, okay, this person's different. I learn how and what is it unique about them that they need or makes them comfortable or happy.
yeah.
Mm,
And things don't have to be one way. Things do not have to look the same
right.
for everybody.
No.
Absolutely not. That
Isn't
is,
it crazy how we just as parents we think about what our life with our children will be, and we don't ask for things to be so different, but we can see what a blessing it is, and I think it's really our obligation to communicate that to the world.
yeah, differences and just being aware of not everything has to be the same. It just makes you realize that there's so much room for growth in
Yeah.
your perception and the way you think about things. And it does make you a better person. And when you're a better person, you can put that out there and just touch whoever else you're around and involved with. And it's really pretty cool when you think about it. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I so for you, I'd love to hear too, what does it mean to surpass the label? And what does that kind of mean for you? Because we've touched on some of that, but it's the name of your podcast. So what does that mean to you?
to me, especially when you are receiving diagnoses for, especially for your kiddos, a
Right.
lot of times you get the medical perspective, and I understand that they are trying to prepare you for a lot of times worst case scenario. So I'm just going to give you an example. When my daughter was first diagnosed, her stroke is considered a small stroke, which sometimes cannot doesn't have to be a big deal.
Right.
Because your brain, you can have different areas affected, and sometimes it not be as significant as others. But where her stroke was at, it was in prime real estate, as they called it. It's where like all the
Mhm.
brain nerves and things come into this. It's called an internal capsule. And at that point in time, we were told that we weren't sure if she was going to be able to walk or talk or do much of anything.
Mhm.
So we get this news, and of course your head starts spinning. Looking back, it can make you go into a very not good place. So when you get these diagnoses, you start thinking about your child fitting into this box.
Oh,
Okay, she's not going to be able to do this. She's not going to be able to do that. And she's not going to be able to do that. So in my mind, this is what I'm thinking. But as she started to grow and we gave her room to start doing and exploring things when she was able to, how she was able to, I noticed that she was surpassing anything that I could ever have imagined. And she did everything in her own way. Her therapist, they call her the queen of compensation because she figures out ways to do everything. And of course, it's like the easiest cheating possible way that she
right.
can.
Yeah.
But she has always done that. And it was at that point, a couple years in, whenever she was able to walk and she did finally start using words and people were finally able to understand her. That I'm like, we cannot place limitations on our kids just off of a diagnosis because we don't know what they're capable of. Their potential, we don't know what that is. So if we give them the space and the tools that they need to figure things out and see what they're actually capable of, that's what we need to do. So
Mhm.
to me, in my mind, that's what surpassing labels means.
Mhm.
Not letting people, society, anybody put our kids or anybody else in a box and just have this labeled as this is all they're going to be able to do. We don't know.
Yeah. And I think as parents too, what I've encountered is we can't control the outside world. We can't control their teachers. We can't control their kids. And a lot of interactions that they can have outside of the family that is empathetic and understands and compensates for whatever it is that they need, they're not going to get from the outside world. And for the most part,
Mhm.
and that can be very traumatic.
Yeah.
But if we're there to help change that story as soon as it happens and help them process it and give them the space to,
Mhm.
studies show that trauma is not going to have the lasting effect if you aren't a parent who is understanding and helps them navigate that.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, being the parent of a special needs child gives you so much grit, gives you so much tenacity and resilience, and our children are just such inspiration to us.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear how your experience in being a special needs parent has impacted you and how has it changed you?
It has changed me in all kinds of different ways. I used to be a very quiet, reserved, closed person.
Mm,
And it's just amazing how your perspective on not just life, but on people and things can shift whenever you are going through things because you just realize what's really important.
mhm,
You realize that things don't always have to look the same for everyone.
mhm,
And you really get a more deep sense of empathy and just realizing that everybody has their own situations. You're going through something, but we still need to be mindful that other people go through different challenges too.
yeah,
So just having more awareness and not just she, my other ones, all of them have helped shift my perspective. And I just see the world completely differently now than I did, especially when I was younger. So it's been
yeah.
huge.
I love that. And I wanted to ask that question because so often, even as moms, we don't give ourselves credit for the leadership skills that we develop as a mom to take care of our a home and our children and do all the things and usually work on top of that or run a business or businesses. But as I think, especially when you're in the thick of it with a special needs situation, you're really not giving yourself a lot of credit. You're feeling all the feelings and not. So, anybody listening to this, I just want you, wherever you're at some point, if you accept the challenge, you can feel the way that you're feeling is empowered and you can do this. And you're really, it's a blessing in disguise, really.
Yeah, it absolutely can because it teaches you so many different aspects. And if you are brave enough to face your fears and brave enough to work through those emotions just to figure out
Mhm.
where your life would be taking you and you can step in that direction, I think you'd be amazed at the potential. And for any special needs moms or moms in general out there who are dealing with things like thinking you can't do this or you're not good enough or I should be doing something different, having those thoughts, please just hear me when I say that you are worth so much more than you think and
Mhm.
you are capable of so much more than you think. So please just hear that and believe that, please.
Yeah. No, I was going to ask you if you had any advice for special needs parents who are listening to this and feeling really discouraged. And I think that's just really comforting. And that, thank goodness, we live in this age where we can do this. We can have this conversation. We can go on YouTube. We can listen to a podcast and realize we're not as isolated as we think we are.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is huge because there's so many different, not just with podcasts and things, but there's so
Hmm.
many different communities,
Oh,
even
yeah.
on Facebook and
Hmm.
Instagram, and just being with other moms, even if you're just scrolling and not interacting much, it still can really create a sense of peace knowing that there are other people who are struggling with the same things that you are.
Mhm.
It's okay to be feeling the way you are and thinking the way you are
Mhm.
because you're not alone. And I think that is huge. So I'm thankful for technology that way.
Yeah, it definitely has its drawbacks,
Yeah,
but
sometimes.
yeah, but I definitely think it's got many positives in that when it's situations like this, like I said, the sense of community that you can tap into,
Yeah.
just feeling somebody who understands where you're coming from can mean so much. So, do you have any maybe strategies or things that our listeners can put into place maybe today? A few little tips to help them to navigate things where they are, if it's like an emotional regulation tip or just,
Yeah, actually, my first tip is to absolutely get honest with yourself,
yeah.
to
Yeah.
see where you are, not only emotionally, but also mentally and physically, because we are holistic people and you really need to be honest with where you're at. And if you need support, it's absolutely okay to
Hmm.
find that support for yourself, whether it's family, friends, or reaching out to a professional of some sort.
Hmm.
Another big one is please prioritize yourself and practice self care.
Hmm.
Cannot say that enough.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we can't serve from an empty cup. And we want to do so much for our families, but we have to take care of ourselves first, for
Yeah,
sure.
and it can look so many different ways. So
Yeah.
whatever works for you, just find it and please do that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's definitely. And do you have any resources? I know you have some projects that you're working on that can also be great for parents who are listening that need some extra support.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend, probably first and foremost, to join support groups. So if you do have questions or whatever, just being able to tap into the mom community and
Hmm.
see if somebody has some helpful advice for you would
Hmm.
be huge. There's also a lot of free workshops and webinars out there that you can search on topics that are relevant to your specific situation to get a lot of good information. And another really good place for resources for special needs parents is early intervention services.
Hmm.
They are huge. They provide all kinds of knowledge and a lot of different resources, and they're available in just about every state. So
Hmm.
that would be beneficial for everyone. And while we're on the topic, I actually am going to be starting up a new initiative. And if you don't mind, I would like to tell you a little bit about it. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
It's called the Surpassing Potential Project. So I just wanted to let you know a little bit about it. Being a special needs coach, I have seen a lot of things in our community about like specific needs that haven't been met. And one in particular that I struggled with myself and that has really bothered me is trying to have a job while caretaking for your special needs child. So it can be really challenging whenever you are navigating all of the ins and outs. So I've decided that instead of waiting for things to shift from the top down, that I am going to opt for a ground up approach and provide a solution to this problem. It's the Surpassing Potential Project, and it's in essence moms helping moms, women helping women, and it has two parts. So the first one is aimed at moms, especially in the special needs community, who want to help their fellow moms. I'm going to be opening up a coach school to educate, train, and mentor you to become a certified mindset coach. And I will show you innovative tools to help other moms break through their challenges, gain a direction, and redefine what parenting means to them. So I'll be looking for 5 moms to be my founding class. And then the second pathway would be for moms, especially in the special needs community, who know that they're meant for more. It may not be coaching, but they know that they want to have an impact and help others. So here I will help you uncover your potential based off of your unique design. and find your direction so you could pursue what fulfills you to make the kind of impact in the world that's right for you. So I'm also looking for 5 moms for this group. But my hope with this project is that starting with us, starting with moms, we can transform ourselves from the inside out and discover our true potential. With the transformations of expanding our awareness, acceptance, and embracing the potential of ourselves, we can help others. And the lessons that we learn, we can impart to our kids who are our future. And we can be the starting point of a foundational shift of a more embracing and accepting world in the future. So one where we can all embrace the extraordinary within the ordinary. So if this interests anybody in any way, or if you have any questions, just reach out. So
Yeah, I'm just thrilled and honored to share what you're doing because it's so important. You struggle not only as a special needs parent, but how do you earn income? How do you, your work and being able to provide and share your talents with the world is also part of your self-care
absolutely.
and your empowerment. So the fact that you're facilitating that is just, it's really honorable. And I will definitely leave links in the show notes to any listeners who want to find out more about that.
Thank you.
But I would love to hear too, like you're an entrepreneur, you're doing all of these things with grace and you making it look easy. How do you take care of yourself?
I don't know about that, how easy that is, right? I'm like, wait, what? To be honest with you, it is definitely a balance trying to find how I approach and navigate things. But one of my favorite go-to things for especially self-care and for me is to go for walks. I love going for walks out in the woods. It just does something for my soul. And it's funny because for the longest time, I really struggled with just saying, okay, I'm going to go for a little walk now because I thought the kids would be like, what are you doing? And
Nobody
everybody would be
breathe.
like, all apart if I take a couple minutes to go for a walk. But now they ask me, they're like, Mom, you going for a walk? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I am. Okay. Anybody want to come? And they're like, no, you go. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going. And
I
so
love that because we have a tendency to overcomplicate it or think it's got to be an fancy, expensive thing that we have to have a membership or whatever. But it can really be that simple if just try it.
yeah.
And I fell in this trap, and I talk about it all the time, where I really assumed this kind of definition of what self-care was, and none of it worked for me.
Oh, I know what you mean. And yeah,
Right? This should be working, but girls' night is not working.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
So so yeah, I just love that and giving people permission to try what works for you, at least for a small amount of time and to
Yeah.
give it effort. And just as you described, it can, with time, change you and change your family and really help them see that you need that time for yourself as well.
And not only that, but I mean with especially my kids and they see that I'm taking the time to take care of me and they know that when they get older, it's going to be okay for them to take time to take care of them. And I think that's a huge shift
Yeah.
and a huge thing for them to know that not only do they need to do that for themselves, but it's okay. And we're modeling that. And I really think that's a big component to
Mhm.
be able to help spread the awareness that it's okay to take care of you.
Yeah. I know you've given us so much food for thought and support and resources and strategies. If you had the takeaway or a few takeaways that you would want to leave with listeners, what would that be?
I think the biggest one that I would want to leave you with is we all have so much potential inside of us, no matter what your story is or your circumstances up to this point. You don't know what you're actually able to achieve until you're brave enough to step out and embrace your potential and see where it can take you. So just find that courage to step out, to see who you truly are and what you're really capable of. Don't let situations or what other people think or say or fear hold you back from being everything that you can be. So I think that's the biggest thing that I want to leave people with.
I love that. It's you have this, you're doing this double situation where you're helping parents achieve their potential, and at the same time empowering the parents is helping the children surpass their potential. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful. I'm sure listeners are going to want to connect with you and learn more. So where can they do that?
I have a website and it's at feliciasheline.com,
Mm.
or I'm also on Instagram. And of course, they can always tune into Surpassing Labels, which is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeart. So, yep.
I love that. And I'll leave links in the show notes for all of that for listeners. Thank you, Felicia, so much for joining us. It's been a really impactful conversation. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And thank you for letting me spread my word. So I really
Absolutely.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
happy to do so, honestly. Thank you.
Thank you.